How have you been then, John? All right?
Yeah, big sound, mate. Yeah, not too bad at all. We're all happy and worked right through for obviously the last few years, COVID and that. I didn't get furloughed or anything. Both me and Jen, my missus, we both worked through. And then smack bang in the middle of COVID, we had a baby. So yeah, that's she's 2.5 now. That's flew over, so she keeps us very busy.
I
Yeah.
can imagine, mate. I can imagine. Right, so we'll go right back to the beginning, mate. So where was home for you and who lived at home with you?
Right, yeah. So when I was first born, my mum and dad lived in Cradley.
Right.
So we lived there till I was about 8. My brother was born when I was about 3, or just a bit over, about 3.5. So there's 3 years between me and our kid. And then when I was about 8, we moved to Royal Ave, where my mum and dad live now. They've lived there for 30 odd years.
Yeah. And was the competitiveness always there with you and your brother? Because that's quite a close age, isn't it? So it's like you're not far
Uh,
from each other development wise, there really are you until your teens,
no,
really.
no. Yeah, yes and no. I don't know if you know my brother, but he's not very sporty, shall we say. He's very musical. So he got musical talent. He can pick anything up and get a tune out of it. And I got sport. I was always into sports, like playing. I'd just be out. Never had a computer as a kid. Never, like a games console or anything like that. Just I'd always be out on the front. So I don't know if you know where my mum and dad live. It's like right at the bottom of Royal Ave, just before you go through the entry onto Ditchy Road. So it's like a bit of
Oh,
an
like
open.
right up by the school then, that end.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
opposite the school and it backs onto the park. So
Yeah.
that little open bit in front, I used to just kick a ball, like constantly kick a rugby ball, pretend running plays in my head and kicking and stuff like that, just counting down. Just that stuff when you're a kid, isn't it? And then you'd be on the field. There was a few lads up and down the street, so we'd play football, or in the summer we'd play cricket. And they always had, Oakfield School always had a set of rugby posts up and a set of football posts up. Don't seem to have it these days, but back then they did. There was always a pitch and football and rugby, so yeah, always just on there.
Plus, you'd have been about, mate, when Widnes were the dominating team in World Rugby, wouldn't you? And you'd seen all them sorts of days.
Yeah, that was that was how I got into it, really, into rugby. Me obviously the ICI. My dad was a member at the ICI when we were kids, and when we were like really young, my mum used to work nights on a Friday and a Saturday night. My mum's a nurse, so my dad would get us out the house on a Saturday and a Sunday, and he'd just be off. And then he used to religiously, when pub drinking times were, restricted, so you had 12 till 2, we used to religiously go on a Sunday, 12 till 2 in the ICI club, and then we'd go with my nan and granddad's who live on Lower House, or did live on Lower House Lane. And I remember one day I just said, to my dad, where are all these people going? And he said, they're going to match. They're going to watch Widnes. So I'd have been about 6, 7. And I must have minded the life out of him, because I think the next week he took me. And then that was it. Like I was hooked. I'd never seen it like it. I just thought, this is great. And probably, to watch a winning team and the names in the team, when you start to understand it a bit more, and who they were, and local lads as well, not just stars, but local lads from Widnes playing for the town. Yeah, and good to watch. Obviously winning. Yeah, great. That's just got me hooked.
So where would your first club have been? And would it have been Rugby League as a kid to start with, John?
It was, mate. Yeah. So my dad, I said, obviously must have minded the life out of my dad again then. He looked round and he played Rugby Union. My dad, he'd never played Rugby League. He'd always played Rugby Union at Halton. And he looked round for a Rugby Union club, but the Wids weren't doing anything for age groups at that time. This would have been like 87, 88. So they weren't doing anything. I think he looked in the nearest place, I think, was Waterloo. And obviously,
Too far, yeah.
too far. So he took me to the Maries. There was a team there at the Maries. I think I must have joined at the first age group and then did like a year or half a year. And then it split and I stayed in the lower ones. It must have gone from like under 7s to under 8s and I stayed with the under 7s. So yeah, that's how it came about. Played at the Maries.
Do you remember much about playing as a kid, mate? Was the pitch a shorter pitch or?
No, mate. Honestly, it was full-size pitches, tackling. All you did was there was no tag. All you did training was just 2 teams split up, have a game of tackle. That was all training was. That was what you did. That was just twice a week you did that, or on a Saturday morning. Might have been once in a week and once on a Saturday morning, and then you play on a Sunday. But yeah, I remember I do actually remember one of me. I don't know if it was the first or one of my first games, and they put me on. I was a sub, and I got put on, and they said, "You're fullback." So I was like, "Right, okay, fullback." And one of the other things, I know many people perhaps won't be aware, but I was tiny as a kid, like really small, dead skinny. So put me at fullback, and I remember my dad was roaring at me to get up with play because I was stood underneath the sticks, leaning on the post, thinking, "I'm on fullback. I have to stay."
Yeah, this is what I do.
Yeah. So took it literally fullback all the way. So yeah, just my dad was like, "Get up with play, get up with play." But yeah, after that, I don't really remember much.
Yeah.
So I probably got to about 9 or 10 when things started clicking, if you know what I mean, and starting to understand the game more. But yeah, it was literally just full-size pitch. I remember at the time thinking, "This is massive." Like when you're a little kid, it's
Especially when
huge.
you're tiny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, but yeah, that's just how it was. There was no like.
Yeah.
That's just how it was. Yeah, you just did it, got on with it.
I mean, you don't know no different, mate. It's just what you're doing, it's. You're still a kid having fun, aren't you? And like loving life at
and
that
that was
point.
it. Yeah, that was it. It was just fun, and I can honestly say that it really was fun.
So when you talk about like at under 10s that started clicking, mate, was there a moment of it'd have been winter rugby then, John, wasn't it?
Yeah, winter rugby. Yeah.
So would there have been something over pre-season that just like in the summer that you just thought, "I'll have a proper go," or do you notice?
No,
Did you recognise a change?
I think it came when trying to think how old I'd have been. What I'd have been in the Beavers, so that's before Scouts, isn't it? So whatever age group that is,
Right.
the town like Scout group and Beaver group held a competition, Rugby League. So I got picked, and in the Beavers, I was on Ditchfield Road there, and I got picked. I think in that group, I was probably only one of 1 or 2 people who actually played rugby outside of, the school or what have you. So whoever it was who came down to take the team, because I'd played before and obviously knew the game, they played me at standoff. Now, I'd never played standoff before. I'd always been fullback or wing, little bit at centre, maybe. I played a little bit at centre, but I've never played standoff. And I think that was when it clicked. That was when I thought, I like this. I like having the ball, and because back then it was you were first or second receiver, and you'd obviously it was kids rugby, so there was no face balls, there was no behind the man, there was no Aussies, Kiwis. It was just you give it your standoff, he gives it your big lad, and that was But that was when it clicked. I thought, I like this. You get the ball, you're involved in the game more. You get the ball. You can throw a dummy, you can put a step. And I think that was when it clicked. So when I went back then to the Maries for like the next session or the next training or the next game, I think I either asked the coach or my dad asked the coach and said, "Look, he wants to play standoff." It must have been awkward. I don't remember it being awkward, but it must have been because the kid who played standoff was the coach's son.
Yeah, it's always going to be tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think that's why I've never been, I've never showed any interest to play there. But then just it must have been that age where I was probably 9, 10, like I say, and it clicked. But that's when I started playing standoff.
Yeah. And do you reckon you
Playing
had the
for
skill
Maries.
set, JP? Because like it takes not only organising, it's a lot of talk. It's having the skill set hands wise, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's being able
that
to
was
read
probably
the game as well.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I like to think I've got a decent set of hands. I've not got cow's tits, as they say. I think I'm pretty decent at handling the ball and throwing. I could throw a pass, and the organising and stuff probably wasn't part of my game. I wasn't what you call vocal as a kid, because again, going back to, like I said before, I was tiny and I wasn't really that type of person. But it was just the getting your hands on the ball, and you could change a game and stuff. And it was at that point of time as well where you're getting like 10, 11, 12, where you're playing more competitively as a club, if you know what I mean. It's you're in a league then, so it's becoming. They're not just games every week; it's a league, and you're in the league, and there's something to play for, and then you're in a cup round. So, I mean, I don't know what rugby league is like nowadays for kids at that age, but back then, like it was a proper setup. So at the Maries, when I played, there was 4 teams in the town. So there was 4 clubs. There was St Lions, Halton Hornets, the Tigers, and the Maries, and that was it. Our age level, the Maries always had, as you will know as well, John, but the Maries always had a strong team at age level, all the way up through the ages and to open age. But at our age level, we weren't quite as good as the other 3 teams in the town. So back then there was like a premiership, they call it now, and then a first division. We were in the first division, so we were in against St Helens Crusaders. Were the team that stands out. I don't think they're Thatcherleaf now, aren't they?
Thatcherleaf now, mate.
Yeah. So back then it was St Helens Crusaders.
It was when I played, actually. As a kid? Yeah.
So they had. It was always between us and them for first and second in the league for like 3 or 4 years. And then we had other teams in the league that were like, we had Saddleworth, Laporte Diamonds. Did you ever play against them? From Warrington. Crossfield, I think, had a team in. But some of the clubs had like enough for 2 teams. Some of the Wigan clubs. So they'd have like their strongest team would be in the top one, and then they put the second string in our league. So they were always tough games, to be fair. But yeah, we had a good team, but we were probably, I wouldn't like to put anyone down, but we were probably the second or the third best players in the town, if you know what I mean. The cream of the players went to Halton Hornets and St Lions, and then the Tigers.
So it's like you said, you get to probably 11 or 12, mate, and it's not about taking part anymore, is it? It's about winning.
It is.
More so, probably, especially as a kid, because that's when I think that competitive edge really kicks in, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So
it does.
Was them leagues ring fenced then, John? Was there no promotion relegation that you remember?
I can't remember, mate, because, like I say, I remember it was always between us and St Helens Crusaders. And I think we might have won the league once and they won it 3 times. But I don't ever remember them not being in the league, if you know what I mean. So there mustn't have been a promotion relegation. It must have just been, that's the level you're at, that's where you're playing. And in all fairness, or whether the coaches had a thing in that, but in all fairness, we probably weren't good enough to go up into that top league. We'd have probably got stuffed every week, and then that's when lads drop off, don't they? And lose interest, and it's not fun going and getting trounced on a Sunday morning in Wigan, is it? So
not half-time kickoffs and that.
No, so yeah, that's like I say, yeah, that's I can't remember there being relegation, but yeah, There must
Yeah,
have just
no,
been those
it
then.
must have been. Yeah, if you're competing with each other that often, it's not enough to yo-yo, is it? It's
No,
not enough to
no.
go up, come
And it
down,
was
because you wouldn't
probably,
have been as dominant.
I'd say there's probably, might have been a 10-team league,
Yeah,
something like that. I don't
and
think
you
there
play
was
each other
more.
twice.
Yeah, home and
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
So we played,
right.
obviously, we played at the Maries,
Yeah,
and our pitches were opposite. They were our
yeah.
pitches. And then obviously they built houses on them. So then we just had the two pitches at the Maries.
All
Um,
right, okay.
can't remember where else we played. We might have played a few games on Prescott Road as well.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
Okay. So when town team come along at 11, mate, was it something you were sent for, you were
Yeah.
interested in?
Yeah. Always the bridesmaid, never the bridesmaid with town team. Was never ever picked.
Okay.
Went for every trial, 11s, 13s, 15s, always went because the school sent you, didn't they? So
Yeah.
back in the day, it was, your school sent you. So I went and had trials. I had also had trials for Lancs. Didn't get picked. Trials for the Bala. It was a tour to Australia. Can't remember what year that was. But the trials for that were where the David Lloyd are now. You know, in Sankey, in Warrington.
Yeah, opposite
Warrington,
Crossfield.
yeah, Crossfield. So I remember going there for trials. That was I think that was 3 weeks. You went for trials, but again, didn't get picked. But then in Widnes at the time, I was playing standoff, and there was probably, like I say, the 3 standoffs playing for Luntsheath, Halton Hornets, and the Tigers were probably better than me, playing in a better league. So you had, don't know if you've ever heard the names, probably not, but you had people like Johnny Poynton, was standoff for Luntsheath Lions. Phil Finney was scrum half standoff for Halton Hornets. Lad called Scott Johnson was standoff for the Tigers. So they were all better. And I'll hold my hands up, they were better players than me. That's, it's just the way it goes.
How did you take that as a kid, mate? Because I know you, so it's like I know like you're pretty like chilled out and without being rude, passive, aren't you? You're like quite relaxed.
Yeah, it was. I was probably gutted. I was fuming, but it just made me a bit more determined to try and get in. But it never happened. And I think once the thing with the town team is, or was, I felt at the time, I think once you're in, you're in. Yeah. And that, if you're in at under 11s, well then you've got to do something major wrong if you don't get in at 13s, and again at 15s. So, and it's hard to break into that. It's like a little club, and it's hard to get into that if you're not in it, because they've all had 2 years together. So I don't want to use the word click, because it isn't, but it's, do you know where I'm coming from? It's already
feels like a close shot.
Yeah. So you go for the trials, and they have the trials, but it's the same people getting picked. And I don't remember people getting picked. That was a shock. You know what I mean? You always knew the faces. Yeah. So the lads like my age group would be Danny Esposito, Mark Flanagan, Phil Finney, Johnny Poynton, Danny Burns, Kev Scott, Steve Ledbetter, all players. Don't get me wrong, good players, great players, and well worthy to represent the town, deserved the chance, but it just never happened for me. So I'm not bitter about it. It just didn't happen. I can't honestly say I can't turn around and say I should have played town team. I think I was better than him, because I honestly don't. I know that they were better players, so you can't be bitter about that, can you? That's just the way life is.
No, it is, and you obviously, because of how you are, you just found peace with that, innit? You just always had the aim, which there's nothing wrong with. Remember Fritz has come on when he done his episode, and he basically said what you'll find is it's harder to come out the system than it is to get in the system.
Yeah.
So like what you said, basically, if you pit, you tend to stay in the system until they spit you out at scholarship or academy level. And he's right,
Yeah.
like there was a couple of years I shouldn't have been in it, but I was in it probably because I'd already been there.
Yeah. And that was the other thing as well. I don't know. It doesn't happen now because you've got academy and scholarship. But back then you didn't have it. So you just got signed. If you were good
the
enough.
A League. Yeah.
Yeah. So Wigan Wigan just come and signed players at, 11, 12, 10
It's
grand.
mad, that, isn't it? Yeah.
Here's 10 grand, just keep playing for your club. And, like you knew we had been signed. So when you played teams, you knew we'd been signed. Kevin Sinfield, played against Kev Sinfield as a kid, but you knew he'd been signed, and it was always, watch that Kevin Sinfield, he's good, and he was head and shoulders above everyone, John, and that's like 11 and 12, just he was like a man playing rugby.
Yeah.
He was good. Obviously, proved it, didn't he? Went on to prove it.
Yeah.
There's not many from my age group who went on to play, who got signed, if you know what I mean. So the ones that stick out is Kevin Sinfield, David Mills. He played at the Maries with us. And obviously he got signed and had a fairly good career out of rugby, made some money out of it. But yeah, Phil Finney probably would have gone on and made it because he was that good, but I think an injury stopped it. I've listened to Kev Bucks, and Kev Bucks said the same. Me and Kev are the same year at school, and Phil he was a really good player.
Right, so when you go into high school then, mate, how did you find the transition into high school?
I had to walk further, so when I went to school, it was Fishermore. So I went to Our Ladies primary school, which from my mum and dad's is you could spit it. But then I went to Fishermore, so there was a few of us from like our end who lived on Royal Ave or Briarfield, Broadway, around there, and we'd walk, knock for each other in the morning and all walk in. 5 or 6 of us all walk to school, picking, knocking for people on the way. So yeah, it wasn't. I had a nice, good group of mates, and believe it or not, I'm still mates with most of them, all of them today. Like we still, we're on a WhatsApp group and we still chat and go for a beer and so still good mates with them. So I just settled right in all honesty. I'm not how can I say it? I didn't particularly like school.
Social and JP.
But it's and here's another little funny thing. Again, I don't consider myself to be that clever, but I was always in the top sets, and I don't know how. And honestly, I do not know how. But every single year, I'd be in the top sets for maths, English, science. And I used to think, I don't know how I'm in here. It's like this is like there's nowhere. But and my mum and dad would probably tell you as well. They really got in trouble. But I did the bare minimum. That was just to keep my head above water, not get in trouble, not get caught out. Just blended in, if you like. Just blended in. Didn't want to be. Didn't want to get in trouble. I was a bit of a goody two shoes. I never wagged it, not once. Never did that. But
just blended it in the top sets.
Just again, and that comes back to that town team thing, John. It was probably harder to get kicked out of them than it was to get in them. Once you're in it. So
So did the rugby carry on in high school, as in you played rugby for Fishermore?
Yeah, it did, mate. So when we played in Our Ladies, again, I don't know what the script is with the schools now. But we used to play years 5 and 6 would be an amalgamated team. So, and then obviously you're in year 5, you're the young, you're the babies, and then you go into year 6, you're the bigger. But that was for every sport. So that was for rugby, football, cricket. So at school, I did play rugby, football, cricket for Our Ladies. And then moving up into Fisher Moor, you played rugby union, rugby league, and you could play football, cricket. I think there was volleyball, there was basketball, there was other stuff. I didn't bother with that then. I probably, regrettably, I should have played cricket, but I didn't. I just stopped. So I just played rugby league and rugby union.
Yeah.
So you played. I think we only ever played the other four schools in Widnes. So you played in between September and Christmas. I think you'd play a game a month. So you'd play Bankfield, Fairfield, Wadeacon, the Joes at rugby league, and then after Christmas you'd play them at rugby union, and that's how. That's how I seem to remember it happening. I might be wrong on that, but that's how I remember it happening.
Yeah.
So you played one, and I think we had a coach at the time, and I think one of the PE teachers was, I think he was a rugby union teacher, Mr. Ryan, and he basically said, if you don't play rugby union, you're not getting picked to play rugby league. So no one wanted to play rugby union. Yeah, but no one wanted to play it. It was, and thinking back again, only years later when you understand rugby union. But thinking back then, you would just, because the teachers were rugby league mentality as well. You didn't get much. You didn't get coached as such. It was like, when you get tackled in rugby union, you've got to drop the ball. So we literally dropped the ball and would just like leave it on the floor. There was no like, I don't think anyway, never got shown to put it back behind you and keep your hand on it for a minute and stuff like that. It was just, you leave go of the ball. So it's like a really alien thing to you, isn't it? When all you've done in rugby league is, when you get tackled, don't lose that ball, don't get it ripped off you, because you could rip them as well. Yeah. That was the other thing, you could rip off people. Back in the 80s.
So teacher was involved with the Wids as well, wasn't he? Was it
I don't know if it's the same one.
Okay.
But then we got I think it was then when I was in 30, or it might have been. So when we went into year 9, that's when the schools joined up.
Okay.
So Fisher Moor and St Joseph's became St Peter and Paul. So that would have been 95. Yeah, 95, I think, or 94. So yeah, that's when they joined up, and that's when then obviously you go from being an automatic pick, because there's probably only 15 or 16 lads playing in your year for Fisher Moor, to then having double. And again, St Joseph's were a better rugby playing team than we were. So I wasn't playing standoff anymore then. I went back to being a fill-in out on the wing or on the bench or occasionally in the centre. But I kept making myself available and turning up.
Right. So when you're flicking between the two sports, mate, because are you still playing club rugby league at this point?
Yeah, still playing for the Maries. Up at that point, still playing standoff, and again, like I said, still in that bottom league. So, but yeah, every week through the winter, great, loved it. Good, and we had a good set of lads. Like I say, at the Maries, few lads from Frodsham. That's how David Mills came over. We had a lad playing called John Hodgson. He was his dad. Richard Hodgson played prop, and he was mates with Dave Mills at school. And he brought him over. There was another lad from Runcorn came over, and we had a good team. We had a laugh, and it was it was enjoyable. We had a little tour to Pwllheli, Butlins at Pwllheli. We did a tour. We played a team down there, but obviously North Wales team did Rugby Union. So we played them at Rugby League, battered them. And then we were supposed to play the one game, and we said, we're here for the week, can we play it again? We'll play Rugby Union. So they agreed to it. I think they might have beat us. I can't remember the score in the Rugby Union. But that was when my dad had to do a bit of coaching on the morning before the game.
Yeah.
He was like, this is what you do in the line
Second
now.
team
This
style.
yeah, this is what you do. Because not like the coaches didn't have a clue. Rugby Union. My dad was the other one. But yeah, Jim Mills came on that tour. With Dave, so it was
mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So do you know when you're flicking between the chords, mate?
Yeah.
How are you seeing the game when you go back to the other? Was it altering your game management? Was you seeing the game differently in one chord to the other? And what was easier to you?
At that point in my life, rugby league was easier because it's all I'd known, all I knew, and that basically that was. Yeah, it was easy because that was all I knew. And you know, it's not easy, is it? Got by any stretch of the imagination, but it just came. Yeah. Rugby league just came naturally. I felt rugby union. I had to try it, and you couldn't say like I don't know anybody at my age group who actively went and played rugby union anywhere else. Do you know what I mean? When we were kids, you just didn't do it because you just get skitted for playing rugby union, and that sounds terrible. But that's what it was like. Why are you playing that? What are you playing that for? That's not a proper game. And because it was just a stronghold Widnes, wasn't it? And just rugby league. You don't play rugby union.
It's probably always been elitist as well, hasn't it? Without being rude, or what? Probably where the money is and stuff.
I think so. And yeah, I think lads, you know, quite a few of my dad's mates, and I know it happened back in the day to lads from the Wids who were signed from the Wids or signed from other clubs, signed from Halton. There was lads signed from Halton back in the 60s and 70s. And there used to be a thing, apparently, my dad's told me about it, there used to be a thing called the Wids Disco on a Friday night or a Thursday night or something like that. And they weren't even allowed in the club to go the Wids Disco. If you it was
mad, that real, wasn't it? If you signed for you were bad.
You weren't, and not even, they hadn't even been signed from the Wids, do you know what I mean? But it was, and they were going for a drink with the missus and the mates, and they just, no, you're not coming in. That, you know, just like when you look at things now, just bizarre, like absolutely mental how that attitude can be.
It happened to Jimmy O'Neill, didn't it? Jimmy O'Neill went allowed in the club for years. Yeah,
I know. It's like ridiculous. But yeah, so going back, you just wouldn't play rugby union, and it was always like you played it at school because you had to if you wanted to play rugby league for the school, and that was so you just did it. It was just like, oh well, we'll do it. But yeah, I don't really. From when we joined up, I wasn't really in the team, and I suppose at that point then, I'd have been what's he in 9, 13, 14. 13, 14. I suppose then that was when I got a little bit, what's the word? Fell out of love with it.
Probably, didn't you?
Yeah, I just fell out of love with it at the same sort of time. The Maries at that point then were struggling. We were scratching round for numbers. So that was less enjoyable, going away with, going to places with 13, a birth 13, and then you'd have someone's younger kid brother on the bench in case you needed a sub, and it just became difficult. And then I can't remember exactly what happened with the Maries. I can't remember whether they folded or I left and packed in around that time. But yeah, I become disillusioned with it, shall we say, and just sort of stopped playing really. I still put my hand up and got picked for the school. But then once you go into 4th year, I think back then, it was more like, well, we don't do sports now because you're doing your GCSEs. So there didn't seem to be as much, if you know what I mean. And I can't, my memory around that sounds a bit hazy, but yeah, I just sort of become disillusioned with it and sort of stopped playing altogether, really. At some point, I can't remember what point that was, but yeah, just stopped playing altogether.
And is that when you've got to start thinking about what life's going to be after school, and what was you thinking about doing, and what did you go on to do?
Yeah, so at that point then, really, you know, my mum and dad were pushing me hard, your studies, this, that, and the other. And again, like I've already mentioned, I didn't like school. I'm not going to lie. It didn't. I'm not academic whatsoever. I don't like sitting and studying at books. So I was always going to leave school at 16. And for long enough, I wanted to be a car mechanic. I was mad on cars. But I just couldn't get an apprenticeship anywhere. I was struggling. And then you'd apply for, I don't know if that's still going now, but there used to be a thing called TTE, which was like ICI and a few other big
Andy Gruff done that, you know.
Did he?
Yeah, with
Right.
Eli Lilly, that's how he got
TTE.
Yeah.
Yeah, TTE. So you used to, again, I applied for that, didn't get in, but they wanted the elite. They wanted people who were, you know, A stars, and that was that. So that didn't happen. I couldn't get a job as a mechanic anywhere, bizarrely. And then when I was, so at the end of your fourth year, then you go and do work experience, don't you? And you go in and you look who you can pick. And there was a company called Speeds, who were electrical contractors in Widnes. My dad had worked there, he'd served his time there and had worked for them on and off over the years. So I picked them, and I got sent on a fortnight's work experience to work there, and absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. Like, it was brilliant. Just a laugh with the lads on building sites. And this was before the days of health and safety, so there was no boots. There was no boots. There was no hard hats. It was, you rocked up in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and your trainers, and just got on with the job. I enjoyed it. I thought, yeah, this is something like I want to do. I want to work in construction. Not really too bothered. But also, having said that, at that time as well, I liked IT. I was into IT, so I was doing IT at school, GCSE, and liked computers. And you know, everyone was saying, "Oh, everything will be on computers. You won't." I suppose it was partly right, but you won't need car mechanics in a few years. Everything will be done on computers, and computers will do this. And so that was a bit drummed into you as well. So I actually got a job, finished school, and I thought, when I finished school, you finish in like the April, don't you? And then you're on exam leave. I thought, this will be great. This just going to have a summer of doing nothing. And I literally finished school, and my dad sat me down and said, "Don't be thinking you're sitting here doing nothing all summer. You're getting a job." I was like, right, okay. He went, "Doesn't have to be your job for life, but you're getting a job." So at that point then, I already had a job. I'd had a few jobs when I was a kid, so I'd had a paper round. I'd worked on the market. I always liked having cash, if you know what I mean. I always liked having a few quid to buy
so you're not
something.
work shy, yeah.
I was into fishing. That's probably one thing I probably should have mentioned. Actually, I was mad on fishing as well as a kid. So I'd spend most of the summer holidays at the clink all day, every day at the clink down here, fishing all day. So yeah, I always had, like I say, I always had a job from like 13. At that point then, I was working glass collecting in the ICI. So we're still doing that on a Friday and a Saturday night. And then I got a job. This is going to sound mad, but I got a job as a web page designer. It was like a little, like a YTS type scheme, 50 quid a week. And it was in Waterloo in Liverpool. So I went, and I'll never forget it. It's still there, the doorway, because I see it occasionally now because of where I work now. And I see this doorway. It was like upstairs above an Iceland, and it was an office, and it was just all these people. So it was 50 quid a week, and it used to cost me 25 quid a week on the train. And all these people were in there doing this like YTS and web page designing, and there were people like that had degrees, that had masters, that had A levels qualifications, and there's little me, 16, like skinny as anything, big mop of Oasis haircut. Yeah, just thought I'm blagging this. Like, this is mad. what am I doing here? You still there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was. Yeah, this is mad. So I did that for about 8 weeks, 9 weeks, something like that over the summer. And in the meantime, I'd still been applying for jobs and trying to get an apprenticeship. And then my dad, I think my dad pulled a few strings, in all honesty, with Speeds. And then they offered me a job. So basically, it was an apprenticeship, 4-year apprenticeship in being an electrician. So I started that in like the August time, and then college started in the September. So yeah, that was that just confirmed the fact, and I've gone full circle now again, but that just confirmed the fact at the time that I didn't want to be in an office. I just absolutely no way working in an office. I wanted to be out in factories or building sites, whatever the type of work. But yeah, yeah.
At least you found that out early, though, John, innit? At least you weren't like further on in life and thought, what am I doing?
Yeah, and that's I'll hold my hands up and say I'm really lucky. But my dad had a contact and pulled a few strings and got me put a word in for me. Went guarantor, I think. Got me the job, and just never really looked back then. Just thought this is, and again, was earning £67 a week as a first year apprentice, and I had more money then than I have now. I'm telling you,
smashing life, yeah.
Yeah, and the days.
So what?
I was going to say, in the days when you could go out with a fiver and like end up bladdered and still get on, like still have
your tea in a taxi, yeah.
Yeah.
So what will work like with you playing rugby still, mate?
Right, so at that point then, I started playing rugby up age in the March, just before I finished school. So I was 16. And it started as a bet. I was class collecting
This is at Halton, mate, innit?
Yeah, at Halton, yeah. I was class collecting in the ICI on a Friday night. And someone said, the third team are short tomorrow. And someone said, I think either I said or someone said that I could play rugby. And I said, I'll play rugby. And someone said, you can't play rugby. You're not big enough. Because again, I was still tiny, 16. And I said, I could if I had any boots. Like, I'd play. And before I could get the sentence out my mouth, a pair of boots appeared. So I couldn't back out. So yeah, I played third team, Halton, on the left wing. Was my first game on the back pitch at the ICI. So on the old Fisher pitches, which were like home really. I knew them pitches already. So
flashbacks.
Yeah, and I just, because I knew everyone, because obviously my dad had played there, and I think my dad was still playing then actually. So in them years, just going back a bit, in them years where I wasn't playing anymore, I was going watching my dad on a Saturday, standing in muddy fields, getting wet while my dad was playing. And so yeah, I got, at that point then, I got to understand a little bit more Rugby Union. So started playing third team at the ICI or at Halton, and then that, obviously it was March time, so there was probably only 4 weeks of the season left. And then I don't think I did a pre-season that year, but yeah, I started work then in the August, started my apprenticeship in the August, and started playing again. So I'd only been playing when we started back. I was in the second team then, playing outside centre in the second team. And again, because I knew most of the lads, I was looked after, lads who knew me dad, played with me dad, or so they were a little bit older. Obviously, I was probably the youngest or one of the youngest in the team. You were looked after, and no one bullied you, no one picked on you. You were looked after, and you only got the ball when probably they thought it was right. I probably wanted it a bit more, but
Yeah.
But I'd only been working. It must have been the October. I'd only been working about 6 or 8 weeks, and I broke my thumb. And that's for a 3-week off work. So I broke my right thumb. And then at that point, work were fine. They didn't say anything, but I didn't get paid. That was the deal. You didn't, if you weren't in, you didn't get paid. So yeah, and they were fine. They never said anything. They never said you can't be doing that or so. But I was quite lucky with injuries in that I didn't really have many bad ones to take a lot of time off. There no, apart from the thumb, no breaks, no fractures, just tears, ligaments, ankle ligaments, knee ligaments, cartilage, ruptured cartilage in my knee was probably the worst one. Or no, in fact, the worst one was a dead leg. Believe it or not, that was horrendous. Yeah.
So,
go on, sorry.
So when you're around these fellas and that, and you're probably, without knowing it, being a sponge, aren't you, getting little tips and intricacies off people.
Yeah.
So how did you spell at Halton going, and what happened at the end? What was it, because the ICI was shutting, or was the team ready to call it a day? Or
We had, like I said, when I first started playing, they had 3 teams. The third team being generally a lot older fellas, and I'd probably say like my age now, 40, 42, and older, and it was a social team. So they played social rugby, and then the second team was the feeder into the first team. So the second team, I think that next year, then when I got picked in the second team, the third team was dropping off. It was getting less and less. Lads were retiring. Lads were finishing playing. Instead of playing a game every week, they might play a game a month, or they might play every couple of months, and then that went. So then, once that goes, then your second team will start to struggle because they haven't got the numbers to back them up. So then we kept the second team. There was still a second team going for a good number of years, probably till I was about 21, 22. And then the second team went because we couldn't keep the numbers. It was just to be short every week. In all honesty, it had probably gone a lot sooner, only for a guy called Ronnie Chappell. Have you ever heard of a guy mentioned called Ronnie Chappell? He was like Mr. Halton, if you like. And another lad called Col Fillingham. Have you heard of Col Fillingham? He sadly passed away when he was 21 after breaking his leg playing for Halton. But Ronnie and Col Fillingham, they set up a Colts team. So I'd have been, at that point, I think I'd have been 19. I was too old to play Colts for them because they were under 18s. But they started up a Colts side with a load of lads from the Abs. So you had Steve Mellor, Paul Curfey, Jay Swinley, Peter Swinley, Gary Kelly, Mickey Kelly, all these lads from the Abs, and they started it up. I think it's like a bit of a distraction to keep them out of trouble, if you like. But they were great, absolutely brilliant, and they kept, with that influx, they kept the club going for another 4 or 5 years. But yeah, that was really
good effort, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and they got a Colts team out most weeks, and again going all over. But it was just literally because Ronnie Chappell and Col Fillingham, they'd go around and pick lads up go and pick them up out of bed on a Sunday morning to get them, because they'd been out the night before, and pick them up and take them to clubs. Honestly, it was funny. Yeah, but at the time, I played a couple of games for him, as a ringer. But yeah, it was good, and some of them ended up, well, most of them actually ended up coming in and playing first team, and going on to be, some of my best mates over the years. Yeah.
So chat about the first team then, mate. What are your best memories from Halton?
And winning the league on my debut. Yeah.
On a John Terry.
Yeah. So It was 1999, I think. I'd have been 18. I'd been in the second team. I had a good run in the second team. Then playing standoff or centre. So in the second team at that point, there was a good mix of lads that were like in and out of the first team, coming back from injuries. Steady feed of younger lads. So there was myself, really good mate of mine, Gaz Atton, another lad called Si Owens, a couple of others who were like a year or two older than me, and then you had a few fellas who were like mid-20s who'd played for a few years and were in the second team. So again, they looked after the young lads, and we always got looked after, and we never got bullied or anything like that by any other teams. So I'd had a good run in the second team. I was playing standoff or centre, and it was around this point then, 18, that I went tall and filled out a little bit. So I started. I think we had a few. It was towards the end of the season, and the first team hadn't had many games, and so there was a few joint games, first and second team. I think at that time, then it sounds mad these days, but I think at that time they had no coach. So Andy Mack was basically picking the team, and with the captain. Andy wasn't captain at the time, I don't think, but Andy was picking the team with the captain. And Andy was playing, and he played a few games in the seconds. And like I said, I'd had some good games, and probably again by good luck, Andy had been playing 10. I'd been playing 13, I think. And I'd had a couple of good games, scored couple of tries, and they had a league decider against a team called Oral Anvils, which at the time was Oral's third team or something like that, and they put them in the league structure. Now, earlier in the season, they'd gone to Oral and got I think it was 18 or 21-0 at half time. We were getting beat. The first team, I wasn't in the first team in that game, but they came back and drew the game. Either 18 all or 21 all, I can't remember the score, but they come back and drew the game, and they had a good team at that point, a good side. I got picked on the wing for this last game of the season. So I've never been in the first team, didn't know what it was like. I've been, around the lads, I knew some of them. But I've been up training at that point. I was training twice a week. I just remember, it was a bit of a blur really, but I just remember Watty, who's the scrum half, Macca's mate, saying, I'm gonna be taking quick taps. Get with me if I take a quick tap. So I just remember he took a quick tap, and he was like on my wing, was it again on the left wing? He took a quick tap and drew a man and give it to me, and scored. Like bounced me opposite number off and scored, and was like, as debut goal, you can't really get much better scoring and winning the league.
Oh, and head off.
Yeah. So yeah, that was how it was. And then the next year, then I was in the first. That was it. Then I was in the first. I was either wing, played the odd game at fullback, and a bit of outside centre, because again I wasn't quite filling out. But yeah, I was in. And again, like we've already said, it was harder to get out than it was.
Yeah, once you were in.
Once I was in, because we had the second team, but then basically the team would pick itself every week, because the better players were there. Do you know what I mean? And that's what happened really. You just got picked. So
Did Brawl Spurt alter your game at all?
Yeah, I suppose it did in a way. Made me a little bit more robust, shall we say, and able to ride a tackle and obviously move into playing at 12 and becoming sort of a craft ball, I suppose you'd call me. It's some stage.
A bit more than that, mate, didn't you? But I know what you're saying, because that numbers associate. Well, probably more 13. The way the game's changed, and it is associated with that now. But when we were playing, mate, the 12 was associated with that one. So
it was.
moving to the Widnes then, mate, how did that come about and why? And you come with a couple of years, didn't you?
Yeah, so that had been 2006. So my last ever game for Halton was when I got that dead leg. And honestly, John, I've never, ever had an injury like that. I was months where I couldn't walk proper.
All right.
I remember it happening. Curfew got knocked off tackling someone, and that didn't happen. So I was next man. He bounced him off. So I went, right, I'm gonna hit him. He's not Curfew off, so I'm gonna have to give him everything I've got. And it was just he accidentally kneed me right in the middle of my quad, and I knew straight away something's not right there. So I went off the pitch, and this would have been about March time in the season, and I was captain. I was club captain at that point as well, so I didn't want to come off. But I had to. I couldn't. Something was majorly wrong, and then the next day again, I couldn't move my leg. It was terrible. The pain was. Oh, I've never felt pain like that. And then I managed to. I think I took the Monday off work, and I managed to hobble into work on the Tuesday. Well, drove in, but then hobbled all around work. I remember walking into the cabin. I used to wear overalls. I was on a job at Manchester Uni, and I used to wear overalls, so I'd get changed in the cabin after work. I just had a pair of shorts on under my overalls, and I remember taking my overalls off and thinking, what's that on my leg? I could just see the top of my knee. And I pulled my shorts back, and my leg was black, literally just black. And I think I went, I can't remember, I went to the doctors or the hospital. I must have gone to the doctors because he went, oh yeah, you've got a dead leg, and referred me for physio. NHS, about 8 weeks, 10 weeks later, I got a physio appointment. By which time I was back on the mend, but I still couldn't run. So yeah, that was the worst one. But then through the summer, we trained a bit, and I was captain. I remember Andy coming to me and saying, I think he knocked at my mum and dad's one night on his way home from somewhere, and he said, I'm not playing next year, mate. I'm going to go to the Widnes. They've been asking me for years. I've always said no. And he had his reasons. I think he wanted a new challenge. Fair enough. I had no issue with Andy going, and we probably could have survived if just Andy had gone. But I feel terrible for saying this now, but it was Derek Dyer leaving without making him feel guilty, because he was front row, and without Derek, was a stalwart, really. Played every week, put his body on the line, was there all the time. And without him, we couldn't get a front row. And we were on the bones, and we had literally, 17, 18 most weeks. Some weeks we were lucky we'd get 20 lads. But then because you've got 20 lads, you're gonna disappoint someone because they can't get in. You're only allowed 3 subs. So you can't keep it going forever like that, John. It's just without a second team, a club will slowly but surely. It's like a slow death that you can just see happening in front of your eyes.
So you want to see that early, didn't you? So that's obviously helped. Something we'll talk about in a bit, and it'll help you for something we'll talk about that you're going to take on. So you've seen both sides of the coin quite early. Yeah.
So that summer then. We got to about a week before the season. We had a meeting, and I'd already booked to go to Australia for the cricket in the December. So my intention was I wasn't going to play in case I got hurt and I had to cancel the trip. So my intention was I wasn't playing, but I would run the team and help the team and do whatever was needed. We had a meeting about a week before the season, and then we decided there and then we couldn't we put all, you sit down, you write all the names down, who said they're going to play, who's not. And we couldn't field the team. So the decision was made then to withdraw from the league, rather than start the season and get 2 or 3 games in and then withdraw from the league. It didn't seem right. And I hated it in previous years when that had happened to, when you're in a league and you're expecting, and then you lose the points that you've already beat that team because they withdrew from the league. I hated that. It seemed dishonest to me. So we made the call, the committee, and to withdraw from the league with the intention of having a season away, trying to get a few friendlies, trying to pick a few people up. I did a bit of an interview. It might have even been with Ian Chauveau in the Weekly News. We put posters up around Widnes, put advert in the Weekly News, asking for players, and it just didn't materialise. So at that point, then again, like I said, I had no intention of playing. Absolutely no intention of playing rugby because I was going away. Came back from Oz in the January. And Macca was already playing at the Wids. Carl had gone up the Wids when we withdrew from the league. Carl Shingler was gonna stay. So he didn't do a full pre-season with the Wids. He just went up for a game, I think, at one of the trial games. And then, obviously the rest is history with Carl, isn't it? He went on.
Yeah.
So I think that season, I had a bit of, before I went away, I'd just go and watch a few teams. So I'd watch the Wids, I'd watch Birchfield, I'd even gone over to Moore, watch Moore. And I was considering, I was going to join Birchfield, in all honesty. That was where I thought I could probably go, I could probably fit in. And then it happened again. It happened really accidentally how I ended up at the Wids, because we had like I don't know if you remember it. We had a game, like a Halton. We had a Halton game against the Wids thirds on the first team pitch at the Wids. So it was to try and get people back involved, and so we had one game with like rolling stuff and stuff. And then off the back of that, Gaz and me mate and Watty started playing in the second team for the Wids. So Gaz reminded me, come and have a game. So that's, again, just accidentally. I just went up and had a game because they were my mates, if you know what I mean. I still wanted to play rugby, but I wanted to play with my mates. That was the enjoyment I got out of it, was playing with my mates, just having a laugh, the change of music before the game, having a beer after it. And that was where it was my mates. That was, it was a social thing for me. That was how I seen it. So yeah, totally accidentally ended up at the Wids, in all honesty, just playing in the seconds. And I think I was working away at the time. That's right. I'd come back from Oz and I'd got a job straight away, working away. So Tank was mithering the life out of me to come training. I said, I'm working away, like there's no, I'm in Mansfield. There's no way I'm getting back on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And he was like, oh man, well, with expenses and so it's a 2 hour drive. There's no chance, like. So I played in the seconds. That was what I did for that season. And then
I can't believe the tramadol didn't make you come home.
I know. Yeah. But I remember then I did a full pre-season and then got picked for the first game of that season. I think, again, Macca was injured again. He had no luck when he first went up the Wids with injuries. That was just, it seemed to be his hammies all the time and little niggles, but he'd probably tell you himself. So Phil Glover was 10. I think we played Fleetwood in the cup. And I remember the first tackle, Phil called a drop off, like a scissor ball, back in. And I remember the 7 hit me, oh, that was a good hit. Like, that was a bit heavier than I'm normally used to. Because normally, the second, like in the Widnes second team and Halton, I'd probably ride the first tackle off a 7 and then look to offload or, make a couple of yards and then get tackled.
Yeah.
But he hit me. And as soon as he hit me, the 8 hit me as well. So I thought, this is quick. And the ball went flying. The ball went for a Burton. I just remember getting up thinking, that was quicker. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Wasn't expecting it to be that quick. So definitely was quicker paced.
Yeah.
Definitely a step up from what I was used to. So yeah, that was, and then didn't get picked for a few weeks after that. Was in and out of the seconds. But yeah, I ended up, settling in and enjoying my time at the Wids and making, again, more mates and more friends up there and settling right in.
We had a good spell in the twos, mate, when like my age group come through at the same time and played with you and under you at the second team, and you would never know you were an out like not a Wids lad. You wouldn't know that.
Yeah, it was again total and utter accident how that ended up. I think hit my shoulder playing for the first team. And in all honesty, I thought it was worse than it actually ended up. I thought I'd proper done my shoulder in. So I think the next game was the Isle of Man away. So I had like a bit of a heart-to-heart with Tank in the club after the match, and my arm was like killing me. And I said, "Look, that's me done. I'm not playing anymore. I'm finished. My shoulder's goosed. I'm not playing. That's me done. Don't pick me for next week. I'm not bothered about. I don't want to let you down for the Isle of Man, so I don't want to go. I won't. That's me finished." And felt a bit of a fraud then, because about a week later there was nothing up with my shoulder. It was fine. I'd already made this statement. I wasn't playing, and so I didn't. And then again we went. So I packed in, and me and Jen went to Australia then for Christmas and New Year, or for New Year again. And then when I came back, a chance conversation with Jed. It might have even been a chance conversation that my dad had with Jed. But Jed said, your John's wasted not playing. Why doesn't he come and do the second team? I think he'd be great at second team captain. So I broached the subject and I thought, do you know what? That'd probably suit me. Playing in the seconds week in, week out, you know where you are, you can plan things around it, But yeah, that was how that ended up. I've got a funny little story about Tank. I don't know if you were playing or not, but there was a game. The backstory of it was I was out on the Saturday night. I was going to a concert at the Park Hall. So I got picked and I was on the bench and I was fuming because I thought, I'm on the bench. I'm probably only going to get 10 minutes. I'm going to gig. I'd rather just not play or go in the seconds, you know what I mean? And then I know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
But because I'm not like that, and I wouldn't not play because I was doing something after rugby. I played, turned up. So I'm on the bench. So we did the warm up, and obviously wear my glasses, don't I? So don't wear my glasses for playing. So I comes out. I'm on the bench and I've got my glasses on, and he says to me, "Why have you got your glasses on?" I said, "Well, I can't see." And he went, "What do you mean?" So then my brain started going, and I thought, I'm going to have him here. So he said, what do you mean you can't see? How do you play rugby then? I said, well, generally speaking, the opposite team are in a different colour shirt. So I know that I've got to try and tackle one of them. And you know that big white thing that you throw about? And he went, yeah. I said, well, when someone throws it at me, I try and catch it. But when someone else has got it in a different coloured shirt, I'll try and tackle him. And he looked at me and didn't know if I was being serious, or like me and Mac still laugh about it today, but didn't know if I was being serious. And he didn't put me on. I'm convinced it was because he thought I couldn't see. So, again,
It's pretty properly is.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
brilliant.
like that was again. So at that point, then I see my ass then proper because I ran in the changing room, got my kit bag, legged it, and I think he thought I had a cob on with him because he didn't put me on, which I did, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I was going out. I was just genuinely going out, and my mates were already out. And there's nothing worse when
catch up.
You're trying to catch people up. Yeah. So I proper see my ass over that, and I just said to him, I said to Tank at that point, don't do that to me again. Like, don't not put me on. I'd rather just play in the seconds. That's all I wanted to do. At the end of a week of work, all I wanted to do was have a game of rugby. I wasn't bothered if it was first, seconds, or thirds. I'd have played anywhere. That was just the way I was. I just wanted a game. So yeah, that was Tank and his selection policies.
Brilliant, that. At least it weren't like a Cumbrian team away, mate.
Oh well, yeah, that's true. So yeah, then when I came back then and did the seconds, and it was Tank and Nui were the coaches, weren't they? And yeah, but I mean, I can take some credit, and I'll happily take some credit, but I can't take it all. We had some great players in that second team. I remember taking a team one week, and the team, it was I think there was 5 standoffs in the back line. You had Andy Mack, that Troy spell, Brian Cartwell. I think, I'll tell you what the game it was. I think you played for the opposition at Manchester. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And yeah, they were short, and you played half a game for them, didn't you? And we put something like 100 points on or something. But yeah, the team then was just outstanding. Like, the forwards were great, and everyone trained. That was the other thing. Everyone trained. It was a laugh. There was it was fun. That and no one was getting paid. And I know Tank and Nui always make a big deal of that, don't they? These are getting paid. He's on 50 quid a man in to be playing, and blah blah blah. Didn't bother me if the bloke opposite me was on 100 quid a game or nothing. I just wanted to play for fun. And when you become mates with the lads in the team, it means a bit more. I think it makes lads do a little bit more for the person next to him, if you know what I mean. If you don't really know someone, and I think that's what the Wids had at that time. I think they still got it now, but at that time, definitely all the lads wanted to play, and yourselves coming through from the Colts, you could tell yous all wanted to play for your mate, and you do the extra work because you didn't want to let your mate down, and that's what rugby's about for me.
Well, it helped as well because we didn't lose much, mate. From what I remember,
that's the thing. Yeah. No, that's the thing. Just stale. It's every bloody time, wasn't it? You had some cracking games against them. But yeah, they were a tough nut to crack. Tough nut.
Yeah. So, when did the decision come? Had you stepped away from competitive playing when you were looking after us in the twos at that point?
No.
Because you were still playing with us, weren't you?
Yeah. So when the agreement was, I'd come back as captain. So I took captain to me. Captain the team, but you run the team, you run the seconds. That's what everyone had done previously, who I'd played under. So I played under, I think, Brian Gill. Derek Dyer was captain, I think, for the seconds for a spell. And they just, they ran the team. So I didn't have any issue with that. And I wasn't, at that point, I wasn't afraid of not picking myself because someone better was available, if you know what I mean. So that first season when I was captain, I probably was a little bit selfless in a way because I didn't pick myself a lot of the time. I would put other lads in, and I'd play when required and if needed. But yeah, I always thought I picked the strongest team that was available. Didn't matter who you were, or if there was someone there who's better than me, then that's fine. They can play. I've not got an issue with that. My second year as captain, and again, I wasn't going to do it. I'd said I'll do a year and see, and then they go and give you clubman of the year, don't they? And
tie you up,
parade you around at the club dinner. So I did another year, and then I'd made that decision then that I was going to finish. I thought this is my last year. So more selflessly, that second year, I did pick myself. an awful lot more. I played. I didn't miss games. Even with the year before, I had little daft niggling injuries that just lingered. You know, that you couldn't shake off. Instead of it being like 3 or 4 weeks, or but yeah, that last year, because I knew it was my last year, I just ignored all that and thought, I'm carrying on. I'm going to play, and this is my last one, so I'm going to enjoy it.
So like you should as well. So you become a spectator then, mate, didn't you? And I know I asked you off recording before, and it's all been announced by the club and that now, so we can talk about it. But some big shoes to fill in it. You're taking over a good team. What Dan's left behind there, right? So what are you looking forward to most with the twos, mate? And what's it feel like to be back?
Getting to know the lads, I think that's, still know a few of them. Your Tom Spencers, your Gabbins, Gerrity. But it's 10 years since I stopped playing. 10 years ago, I was 32. So they were kids when I finished. And now they're, where I was, I suppose, early 30s. So just getting to know the lads and trying to integrate myself, if you like, and just get my messages across and filter things down from the first that need doing, and filter things up from the thirds, and just the way I see things. And I will say Dan's done a great job, but what's he done it, Dan, 4 or 5 years, something like that, is it?
Like over a couple of periods, yeah.
Yeah, and he's done a great job, and I don't know what's going on. To be honest, I don't want to know. Nothing to do with me, and again, totally accidentally, I suppose. Andy asked me. He just I think he done it. I think he planned it, because.
Do you want to be clubbing next year and then?
No, I tell you what happened. We played golf the other week at Widnes for Lammy 40th, and I got a lift up there, so I had my clubs, and Macca was in the car, and he went, "I'll take your clubs, you can pick them up from ours," because I'd just gone straight on the air. I said, "Yeah, all right, sound nice one, Andy. I was just going to leave them here. Or get someone to, drop them somewhere. I'm not really that bothered." So he said, no, I'll take them. So then I went to pick them up on a Sunday, and that's when he called me and just said, "Look, I think Dan Newall's left. We're going to be struggling for a coach. Would you be interested?" I had to think about it. Probably about a week, 10 days. He said what he'd want. Well, he told me what he wanted from me. I think he'd spoke to Jed and he spoke to Spike, and they said they didn't have an issue. So, yeah, just I'm looking forward to it, to be honest, to get back involved. I do like rugby, and hopefully we can continue the good success that Dan has had, the what's the right word? I can't think of the word.
He's got it right there at the minute. Him and Watto, by the way, we've overlooked Watto a bit, but the camaraderie in the team, but there's really good, isn't it? And
the environment, that's the word. Yeah, the environment, and hopefully we can continue that on, and people get on board and buy into me being coach. I'm
sure they will, mate.
I'm not going to be doing much coaching. I'll tell you that. I'll just be, the way I see it is Andy's the head coach, Woody's the assistant. Everything that goes on in the club, first, second, third, should come through them. That's the message. I'm there on a Saturday to relay the message, see what's going on in the game, because a captain can't. I understand that from being captain. You can't see what's going on the pitch. I don't know if you remember back then, I got Sean involved. I asked Sean Newall to come and be my eyes and ears on me, and Sean got on really well doing that job. So, and then in that last year, the second year I did it, there was me, Sean, and Andy O'Neill a lot of the time as well. And we just did it between the three of us, which made it, really easy.
Yeah. No, it is, mate. It's a very good team to take over, and hopefully they've got, like you said there's 10 or so years as a unit together yet, and we're only going to be blessed with people coming through, hopefully. So fingers crossed, mate, that
and that's the other positive thing about the that's the other positive thing about the cup, like we touched on earlier on. Once your team start dying, your third team goes, your second team won't last much longer after that. If your second team goes, your first will struggle. So you've always got to have an influx of players and bringing people in. So that's where the Colts and the juniors and everything intertwines with the club and keeps the club going.
And in the same breath, mate, no one's bigger than the club you play for who you told you're playing for, don't you?
Exactly, mate. Exactly, yeah. That's the attitude you've got to have.
Right, so we've got a few daft questions for you, John.
Okay.
Right, so any pre-match superstitions?
Not superstitions as such, but I used to have a knackered, well, they ended up knackered, obviously, horrible old pair of underpants that I wore for rugby that were like full of holes, absolutely no support in them whatsoever. But they were like the undies I had to wear to play in. So that was it. But no, as for no, nothing really, nothing superstitious, no traditions, no set things of doing, no putting my left sock on first. It just turned up, got changed, went out. Yeah, that was it. Didn't really think about it.
So the toughest player you played with and against, but you might not know, you probably won't know the name against, but there might be someone that stands out from a club that you go, you know what, well, I struggled with him.
And I think you'll probably know. So the one, I had to think about this when you sent the questions over and that, and the one that come to mind was, do you remember the guy who played six for Sale with like grey hair, and he looked like about 110.
Yeah.
But I remember again trying to tackle him, and I'll be honest, you know, hate's a strong word, but I hated him on the pitch, and for no valid reason other than he was a pain. He was just always where he shouldn't be. And I remember trying to tackle him, and it was like hitting like a wall. He was just solid. And I remember thinking, I don't know, he might have only been 21. He might have just had like really silver hair, but
very mature face.
Yeah, I just remember thinking, God, for a fella his age, he is solid.
Tough.
But yeah, just that he springs to mind. He's the one who like come out in my head. And then toughest player I've ever played with, Carl Shingler. Just an absolute machine. I think he's played every single position on the rugby field bar front row. And when I first met him, I'd have been about 16, 17, and he was playing scrum half in the second team at Halton. He was just coming back from an injury or his illness. He'd had testicular cancer, hadn't he? So I think he was just coming back from that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. A good long time ago. So obviously I was about 16, 17, playing second team scrum half, and he ripped a shred off me. Like, I can't remember what it did. I had to drop the ball, and he proper, I remember it sticks in, like he was proper, he had shaved head, nowhere, because it all fell out and stuff. So he was just scary. And I remember thinking, oh God, I'm not doing that again. Might upset him.
Yeah.
Obviously, got to know Carl. He's a good mate of mine. But yeah, toughest fella I've ever played rugby with. Like,
I love Shingy, me, but do you know what, mate? He's a top player, but his dark arts probably come to the fore more than his rugby ability with people. But he could definitely play.
Oh mate, he was a great.
He was clever.
Do you know what? He was one of them who's he's probably one of them people who's good at most things he does sporting wise. He used to play roller hockey, like in his younger days, and I think ice hockey as well. But yeah, you've got to be fit to play that.
It's where the anger comes from as well,
yeah, but like I say, he's played everywhere. He's captained Halton. He's played fullback. He's played standoff. He's played scrum half. He's played in the centres. He's played back row, all across the back row. And I think at the end, the width, he was playing second row. I think Tank was picking him at second row.
Yeah.
Just to be able to do, or I never, you get people who can play a lot of positions, but they're not as good as the position they should play, if you know what I mean. But Carl never lets himself down in any position he ever played.
Yeah. Oh, he's class, Carl. So your favourite away ground, mate, that you've played at? Because we've been to some shitholes, mate, haven't we?
Yeah. The one that sticks out as a kid playing for the Maries, I used to love playing at Saddleworth Rangers, and I don't know why. But yeah, used to love playing there. And then as an adult, probably the one that sticks out for me, just because it's a nice place to go and play rugby, is Broughton Park in Manchester. I think their setup is like brilliant. They've got everything you need there, haven't they? And the pitch looks well looked after. And so yeah, that'd probably be, that's the one that sticks out where you think, yeah, I don't mind going playing there. That's a nice place to play. There's some, like you said, there's some atrocious, even now 2023, there's some atrocious places to play rugby like.
Yeah, there is. So if you could go back and tell a younger you something, mate, what would it be?
Don't know. I was having a laugh actually the other week with my mum and dad in the kitchen at their house, and my mum said something about, I'd said something about playing, and my mum said, do you miss playing? I said, oh yeah, I'd love to play. I said, but I'd like to play with my brain now, but with my body as a 21-year-old. Yeah, because I think there's nothing specific I'd tell myself, but I think there's loads of stuff. Just listen more, perhaps, and not be a sulky mad ass when you didn't get picked and things like that. Just be a bit more tough.
Yeah. Right, mate. So you're out on the piss. The microphone ends up in your hands. What song are you giving us?
Mustang Sally, really badly. Touched on it a bit. Yeah, touched on it a little bit earlier. My kid brother's, like I say, he plays drums, plays guitar, sings. He's in a band, but he can sing. And I remember going to, he'd have been about 13 or 14. No, he might have been a bit older than that. Might have been 15-ish. But anyway, we went to a party. A friend of the family's son's 21st, I think it was, and they had karaoke. And he got up. My mum and dad had never seen him sing, and I'd never heard him sing. And he got up and sang Mustang Sally, and literally, you'd have swore like the commitments were on stage. He was spot on, like it's every note. So since then, I try and do that, but I'm just not as good. Just awful, like terrible.
Nice stars in your eyes at the party. He smashed it.
Yeah,
People might not remember that actually. What a show!
I know. It was great.
Yeah, right, mate. So if you're willing to, a 1 to 15 that you've played with.
Yeah. Again, there'll be some names I've missed off here, but this is literally perhaps not the best players I've probably played with, but the players I've enjoyed playing with the most. And people are in for what they give and what they offer to a team and a club. So I'll start off. I'll go full back. Start off in the backs where I like. So full back is Riz, Andy Riley. When I first came up the Wids, Andy I think was about 17, 18. I think he'd have been, would he? Playing full back first team, absolutely brilliant, lightning, great under eye ball. Just seemed to be the complete player at that young age. You know what I mean? Just stood out for me. Really, just really good. So yeah, he's me 15. My 14 would be Steve Mellor. Again, he's probably a fullback really. That's where he played most of his rugby for Halton, was at fullback. But another player who can play across the backs really, can play 10, can play 9. Can certainly play 13, and was great on the wing and at fullback. But yeah, good mates with Steve. Was his best man at his wedding. He also gets in for his kicking. He was mustard. He was up there probably 85-90% for his kicking. Great player and good mate of mine. 13, Paul Curfey. Me and Paul were probably centre partners at Halton for 3, 4, maybe 5 years, and he's just unplayable, mate. But just a young Paul Curfey was, when he was 18, 19, 21, just unplayable, just outstanding. Just give him the ball. That was Macca's plan all along. Macca playing 10. That was just give Curf the ball. I didn't see. Andy will probably tell you, I didn't see a lot of the ball at Alton a lot of the time, because it was literally, I was the decoy. Give it Curf. But he was brilliant, and I don't know if you'd ever seen him play, or you've seen him play.
Not as a kid, like I've learned to that.
Just he was quick, solid, stocky, but short. Obviously, same height as he is now, but just a great player. And like I say, we were mates, went on holidays together, went out on the ale together. So just a great player to play with. An absolute lunatic, by the way. But just a great player to play rugby with. Just a great player. At 12, struggled. Well, I didn't struggle with this, but there was a few names popped up at 12. But I went for Phil Glover. Again, when I first put the weights, Phil was playing 10. When Andy wasn't available, but he played 12. He played another one of them players could play in a few positions. Played 12, played 13. I partnered him a few times, playing 13. He was at 13, I was at 12. And again, get on with Phil. Great rugby player, great rugby brain, great defender. Like, just get stuck in, does the stuff that needs to be done. And never had a bad word to say about Phil, to be honest. Thought he was a great player. And coming down on the other wing then, Smigger. I remember when Smigger came into the first team, and I remember Newey coming, I've got this kid in the Colts, he's only played a few games, but he's absolutely brilliant. And you know what you're thinking, 18, like, what's he going to know? He can't be that good. But he was just like, again, like Rizza, just a young kid, no fear, absolutely, I'll do what I want. And the ball will go over his head, and a lot of older fullbacks would probably pick it up, look, and kick, get away. That both Smigger and Riz didn't have that in their head. Like, it was, I'm having a run, and if I get caught, then I get caught. But it's up to you lot. You fatty to get back and help me out. I think that was his mentality. But just a pleasure to watch. Just great to watch play rugby with him, and a nice lad with it. Just a really top lad. 10 was the easiest pick. I don't even think I've mentioned his name enough already, haven't I? But it'd be Andy Mack. Just a great lad, great player. Could put you through a gap without even looking at the pass. You know what I mean? Just clever with it. Game management, not just a dummy and a pass, and he had everything. Game management, his kicking, just communication, talking. Just probably one of the best players I've played with. 9. This was a tough call. This at 9, and I've gone for Duncan Watt. Played with him at Halton, and literally because I've picked him because he's my mate, and I've played the most with him, the most amount of time. But very close between. I could have had Lammy, or I could have had Andy O. But I went for Watty just purely because the length of time I played rugby with him. So that's him. But again, a good rugby player. I've never seen anyone tackle as low as him. Literally, he'd fit in this day and age now. He tackles like on the ankle every time. Never ever. I never seen him try and tackle anyone above the ankle, like, or above the knee. Just that was his way of tackling. Yeah, but a good player. So then we're coming into the forwards. So I don't know which way these go around, but I've picked Vickers. Steve Vickers, again, when I first come up the Widnes, was great, welcomed me, got on with him, similar interest in music and things like that. So yeah, Vickers would be the great player, great lad on the field, great lad on the air. Always good to have on the back of a bus coming back from a win.
Yes, like a gentle giant Vickers.
Yeah, top lad. And then my hooker, I struggle with forwards, me, because I don't really pay much attention. But I've gone for Derek Dyer, solely because of who he is and what he'd done, and playing front row for all them years. Played hooker, played prop, but would play, and he was still playing it, whatever he was. Day older than grass, I think. Still just turning up and playing and putting his body on the line, and so Derek gets in. And then at 3, I picked Mossy, Gaz Moss. And then when I first come up the Widnes, I don't think Mossy was playing. He was injured with one of his biscuit shoulders. But when he came up, again, opened my eyes to like amateur rugby. He was so, I suppose professional is the right word, around rehabbing and exercising and doing everything right so that he could play. He played a couple of times in the seconds when he was second team captain. Because my first year as captain, Mossy was club captain. So again, we got on quite well with the teams, and he played a couple of times in the seconds coming back from injury. I think he played back row at Gloss at one time and was proper blowing. But again, was, a great lad and a great player. But yeah, Mossy gets in. His second row, dead easy for me, this one. Second rows, Bomber. Class Bomber. When I first come up the Widnes, he was second row in the first. Quite contrasting, me 2 second rows. But Bomber was like athletic, a rugby player. And the other guy, which is Fieldy, he gets a bad rep, Fieldy. I think he's a great player, but he gets a bad rep because of his discipline. But you need that type of person sometimes in a game of rugby to take the game by the scruff of the neck, or not take a backward step, and just be the enforcer, if you like. But loads of time for Fieldy, get on him really well. And I always liked him as a player. I actually tried to get him to Halton one night in top of the town. He stood at the bar and I said, I've heard you're not playing. You fancy coming down, Halton? And he just flat, point blank refused. No, that was all he said. He is, like, just in his way.
Just blunt.
Just, no. I was like, all right, Matt, no worries. Do you want to be here? That was that. But yeah, get on really well. Right, then, my back row. I'd have Chingy, Carl's in there at 6. Obviously, you've said all I need to say about Carl. Don't think I need to pump his tyres up anymore. 7, gone for Tom Mack. A proper 7, a proper open side flanker, rugby player, clever with it, good over the ball, good in the tackle, quick, intelligent, and just, again, when it was an eye-opener when I first came up the Widnes, because you had all these young lads, and I was 26, 27, but these young lads who would come out the college, yourself and Tom Mack and Juzzy and Rizzer, and who just could play. And like I said before, I've no fear, just played rugby. There was no shackles. It was just, but Tom fits into that bracket, great, number 7. And then 8, again, close call, was a few names. Yourself was on it, John, to be honest. And there was a couple of others, but I went with Kev Farrer. Kev was just, again, another young lad who was just outstanding and just didn't seem to care about his body in any shape or form. Would throw himself anywhere, in a tackle, in a ruck, in a maul. fucking goal from a scrum. Just, I'm not, you know, not. I wouldn't say he's the classic number 8, is he? Like in size wise, he's short and stocky. Number 8 these days tend to be quite big and bulky, but he didn't lack anything. He gave everything like Kevin, great player. So yeah, pleasure to play with all of them. I think that would be a good side.